Hey, Shawn Clement here from the Richmond Hill Golf Learning Center. And hey, it's almost springtime. It's about 13 degrees outside. I just got back from Abu Dhabi, and it's time for this snow to get the heck out of here. And it's looking green out there. Things are starting to dry up, and it looks like in a couple of weeks we'll have our golf course back. So, you know, things are looking up. I got a little more of a twinkle in my eye when it comes to the season coming up. So today is a little addendum to the last video I did from Abu Dhabi about the timing and tempo and rhythm. I talked about a 40, 60, and 80% assistance to momentum. And I want to talk about a couple of things there. So number one, to get 40, 60, and 80%, how do you really identify that you're swinging that way? And I had a good conversation with a couple of really good players of mine, a couple of good students, and this is how I described it to them. So you remember this from my DVD. So this is my little rubber piece of tubing, and I'm twirling this. Now, 40% is basically slightly above the speed of the wobble point. So I talk about the wobble point, meaning if I twirl this too slowly, it becomes wobbly, right? There's not enough centrifugal force to keep it taut. So we go a little bit faster. There's still a little bit of wobble in there. We go a little bit faster. There we go. So this basically feels like about 40% intensity, okay? Now let's go to 80%. 80% is basically just below strain point. That's strain. That's just below strain point right there. So it feels like I can do it without much strain. A little bit more and it would feel like my shoulder and my arm would strain too much. And 60% is right in between. So we look at the wobble point. That's wobbly. There we go. That's not. So just above wobble, that felt just impeccable. Just below strain. So strain would be below that. Yeah, right on the button. So there's my 80%. And then we've got the one in between. So the one in between is basically you're clubbing down one club. Let's say you've got the choice between a 90% 8-iron, not going to yield very good results, or a 60% 7-iron. That's the one you're looking for. So you go slightly beyond wobble, and then you give it a little more than that. Yeah, right there. So 60%. There it is. There's the ultimate one club down so that, you know, you're not careening it over the green, you're not short, it's secure, it's tracking, it's well done. So that takes care of the 40, 60, 80. Now, I had a couple of comments saying, you know, we talked about pushing a kid on a swing and when do you push? Well, in actuality, in the golf swing, it's not a pushing action, it's a pulling action, okay? And I have a few of my students that I've transferred to double overlapping grip. For those of you who have a tendency to force too much and have way too much of a hitting action with your trailing hand, you've tried everything, you worked really hard, getting your tilt, all that stuff. So remember we just did the uphill shots. Now when you're going uphill, all right, you feel the leverage inside that back foot. You're using that leverage to pull the club into a whipping action, into a snap out here. So Gary Player describes the golf swing as downswing as pulling on a big church bell, right? So imagine right here, I got a rope hanging down, I grab that rope and I pull down on that rope. So you can see when you're hinging properly with your wrists, you're in a really nice pulling action. My right arm, you notice when it's hinged and my elbow's pointing down, that right arm is in a nice position to pull from. So if you tend to hook, means you're pushing with the right arm, you're trying to square the club up to the ball, ball being the target, versus pulling the club through to the target. So when we're drilling a nail into a door frame, we're pulling the hammer into that door frame. Okay? So there's or you're pulling the bull whip. If you have a nice little whip, remember that Get Some Snap in Your Swing video? You could see that I was still pulling that lunge whip into that snap out there. So when we do a double overlapping grip, for a person who is right hand dominant, using their dominant side too much, you want to calm that down. You want to feel what it's like to swing with the dominant left side. Then double overlap your hands, okay? And you'll feel like, wow, that bottom hand has been taken almost out of the equation. And feel how you're pulling that club through the shot. So if I had a kid on a swing right here, and the seat of the swing's right there, and I tie a cable to the head of my club and pop it underneath that seat of the swing, and now I follow the kid. Fall, fall. Now I want to pull the kid. We're pulling the kid through and launching him out there. It's a pulling action from here. That's where you're assisting momentum with a pulling action. It feels like a pull, okay? So we start off with a double overlap. Feel the weight of that arm club unit. Pull it through. Works really well for, Jim Furyk. Payne Stewart used to swing this way. I know he maintained his double overlap with his putting. All right, but I know at one point he was swinging with a double overlapping grip. So, and I know a lot of other players tend to do that. A lot of good players will do the double overlap. Okay, so you might want to give that a try and get that feel of that nice pulling action through the shot. Otherwise, take a few practice swings with your right hand only, and feel. See, when I let my right arm fold my hinge of my wrists, and now I'm in a great position. Now gravity's pulling that way on the club head, and I'm letting my arm fall. So when my arm falls, it's naturally pulling the club head through the ball, and then you get that nice little release on the other side. Enjoy that. Let me know. Let's talk about it in the forum. I have a few guys on the forum. We just had a nice conversation about that double overlapping grip. So we got some great support for you out there. See you soon.